What if I told you that one of the most chilling murder mysteries in American history led to the birth of the FBI? Imagine a series of cold-blooded killings that shook the ground beneath the feet of an entire nation. This isn't a plot from a Hollywood thriller. Rather, it's the horrifying reality of the Osage Indian Nation in Oklahoma during the 1920s. In the heart of the United States, the Osage Indian Nation, a tribe of Native Americans, was living in peace and prosperity. They were the wealthiest people per capita in the world, thanks to the rich oil reserves discovered beneath their land. But the dawn of the 20s brought with it an ominous shadow of death that loomed over the Osage Nation. One by one, members of the Osage tribe began to die under mysterious circumstances. Some were poisoned, others shot in cold blood, and many simply vanished without a trace. The death toll rose at an alarming rate, with the number of victims reaching into the dozens. The prosperity that once blessed the Osage was now a curse, making them targets of a ruthless and unknown enemy. Local law enforcement was baffled. The local sheriff's department, although well-intentioned, was ill-equipped to handle such a complex and far-reaching investigation. The scale of the crimes was unprecedented, and the mystery surrounding the murders only deepened with each passing day. The lack of leads and mounting death toll created a state of fear and helplessness that gripped the Osage Nation and the surrounding communities. This terrifying spree of murders was not only a shocking event in itself, but it was the catalyst for the creation of one of the most influential law enforcement agencies in the world. The inability of local law enforcement to solve the case led to the involvement of a then-fledgling organization, which would later become known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI. The Osage Indian murders were a chilling chapter in American history, but they were also the spark that ignited the birth of a law enforcement legend. Beneath the feet of the Osage Indian Nation lay a fortune that would bring them prosperity, but also doom. Black gold, that slippery substance that powered the world, was discovered in abundance under the Osage lands. It was the early 1900s, and the oil industry was booming. The Osage, previously displaced and marginalized, suddenly found themselves sitting on a veritable gold mine. The oil rights they held were worth millions, and this sudden influx of wealth turned the Osage into some of the richest people per capita in the world. As word spread about the Osage's newfound prosperity, opportunistic outsiders began to flock to their lands, like moths to a flame. They came with promises of partnership and friendship, but had ulterior motives hidden beneath their smiling facades. They were drawn to the Osage's wealth like bees are to honey, and they would stop at nothing to get a piece of it. One such outsider was Ernest Burkhart, a charming and seemingly well-intentioned man. He managed to win the heart of Molly Burkhart, a young Osage woman, and they were soon married. Their union would later prove to be a pivotal moment in this chilling tale. Burkhart, with his foot now firmly in the door of the Osage community, was well positioned to manipulate and exploit the situation for his own gain. But of course, no one suspected him at the time. He was, after all, a family man, a respected member of the community. But as the Osage continued to reap the rewards of their oil-rich lands, something sinister was brewing beneath the surface. Their wealth became a magnet for greed and treachery. It wasn't long before the body count began to rise. One by one, Osage members started to fall prey to a series of mysterious and brutal murders. As the Osage's wealth grew, so did the body count, and it became evident that their fortune was a deadly, double-edged sword. The prosperity they had enjoyed was quickly turning into a nightmare. And the worst part? The real terror was just beginning. In a desperate bid to stop the killings, the case was handed over to a young and ambitious organization, the Bureau of Investigation. This was a time when the Bureau was still finding its footing, a far cry from the formidable institution we know today as the FBI. At the helm of this critical mission was Tom White, a former Texas Ranger turned Bureau agent. White was a seasoned lawman, known for his tenacity, ingenuity, and a deep sense of justice. He was tasked with solving a mystery that had brought the Osage Nation to its knees and baffled local law enforcement. White assembled a team of undercover operatives, a motley crew brought together by their shared commitment to justice. They were not just investigators, they were pioneers in a new frontier of crime solving. Their task was daunting. They had to infiltrate an environment of mistrust and fear, where the enemy was unknown and potentially lurking in every shadow. The team faced a myriad of challenges. They were outsiders in a close-knit community, their every move scrutinized. They had to navigate a complex web of relationships and power dynamics, all while maintaining their cover. And they did it all in the face of a relentless killer whose identity remained elusive. Yet, despite these hurdles, they persevered. They dug deeper, followed leads, and painstakingly pieced together fragments of information. They conducted interviews, sifted through documents, and combed the landscape for any clue that might shed light on the identity of the killer. Their breakthrough came not with a bang, but with a whisper, a hint of a lead, a connection made, a pattern discerned. It was the culmination of relentless pursuit and dogged determination, and it was only the beginning. This was a case that tested the mettle of the Bureau and set the stage for its evolution into the premier investigative agency it is today. It was a case that demanded more than just traditional law enforcement tactics. It required innovation, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Against all odds, White and his team began to piece together a chilling narrative of greed, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. The mastermind behind these heinous crimes was closer to home than anyone could have imagined. The threads of this intricate plot of murder and deceit led not to a faceless corporation or a shadowy foreign entity, but to the very heart of one Osage family. Molly Burkhart, an Osage woman who had lost sisters and family members to this relentless wave of violence, was married to Ernest Burkhart. Ernest, a seemingly ordinary man, was deeply entwined in this web of treachery. He was not the puppet master, but he was an essential piece in this deadly game. The real puppet master was none other than Ernest's uncle, a man respected and feared in equal measure, William Hale. Hale, known as the King of the Osage Hills, was a man of considerable influence and power. His plot was as simple as it was chilling: murder the Osage, inherit their wealth. This was a plan executed with cold precision. Ernest, under the guiding hand of his uncle, played his part to perfection. He watched as his wife Molly lost one family member after another, all the while knowing he was complicit in their deaths. When the truth finally came to light, it sent shockwaves through the community. The trial that followed was nothing short of sensational. The courtroom was a spectacle of revelations and accusations, of lives shattered and a community betrayed. The verdict? Guilty. Ernest Burkhart and William Hale were finally held accountable for their actions. The Osage murders were not just a crime against the Osage people, but a stark example of the depths of greed and inhumanity. This story, of a family torn apart and a community pushed to the brink, serves as a chilling reminder of what can happen when wealth and power are allowed to overshadow basic human decency. The Osage murders left an indelible mark on American history, shaping the future of law enforcement and reminding us of a dark period in our past. This horrific chapter in our nation's narrative was a catalyst for change, propelling the nation into a new era of law enforcement. The murders of the Osage people, wealthy due to the oil reserves beneath their land, were so shocking and widespread that they necessitated the intervention of a federal agency. This was not just any agency, but the Bureau of Investigation, which would later become the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or as we know it today, the FBI. Yes, the birth of the FBI, a cornerstone of American law enforcement, was largely due to the Osage murder case. This was a turning point, a moment where the nation acknowledged that local and state law enforcement were not always equipped to handle such complex and far-reaching investigations. The establishment of the FBI marked a shift towards centralized federal law enforcement, capable of investigating and prosecuting crimes across state lines. However, the legacy of the Osage murders is not confined to the annals of law enforcement history. It is a legacy that continues to echo through the generations of the Osage people. Despite the passage of nearly a century, some of the murders remain unsolved, leaving a wound that time has yet to heal. The impact of these crimes on the Osage Nation is profound, serving as a stark reminder of a time when their newfound wealth turned into a death sentence. It is a legacy of fear, mistrust, and trauma that underscores the pressing need for justice and reconciliation. The Osage murders serve as a chilling reminder of a time when wealth became a death sentence, and justice was a luxury that few could afford. It is a reminder that we must learn from our past to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated, and that justice is not a luxury but a right that every individual deserves, regardless of their wealth or heritage.